So before I share what's on my heart, I do want to take the time to acknowledge our fearless founder, David Delmar Cintiez. He resigned last year and has transitioned as an emeritus board member. His book, and I will not stop plugging his book, What We Build with Power. You should have that book by now. But if you don't, you can order it from Amazon after demo day. So, this is a wonderful day for me. It's because I'm here with all of you, sharing in the excitement and the anxiety and the pure exhaustion of everything that it took for us to get here today. It's been 6 months to the day that I've assumed the role of executive director of Resilient Coders, and it has been busy. We're getting a lot done. But for me, the beauty of today is a little more personal. This evening, my oldest niece, Michaela, is preparing to go on her senior prom. I don't want to bore you with my sentimental humdrum, but we're here. You're going to get it. You're going to get my humdrum. You're going to get my sentimentalness, if that's a word. For the past couple of weeks, my mind has flooded, and she's sitting right here beside me. My mind has flooded with memories of her wearing my jewelry and wearing my heels, traipsing around the bedroom and wearing everything I have, being barely able to stand in my shoes and falling and saying, "I'm okay." She would always yell, "I'm okay," whenever she fell. Occasions like demo days, proms, graduations, and the like allow us to pause and reflect on progress, maturation, promise, and legacy. Legacy from serving as a leader to being an auntie. I've always been obsessed with being the best example, serving as a supporter to my siblings as they raise their children, and as an advocate for my nieces and nephews. I have a selfish reason. I have selfish reasons. I want them to remember me. I want them to be able to reflect on the contributions I've made, the indelible impact of my presence. I remember when we were out to dinner one afternoon, I took Michaela along to have a lunch with a few acquaintances. As we're eating dinner, someone asked, "Do you enjoy hanging out with your auntie?" And without pausing, she responded, "Yes, I really love my aunt. She's a very nice person, even though that one time she forgot to feed me dinner." And as the table erupted with laughter, I said, "What, Michaela, what? What are you talking about?" And she recanted, "Remember when you remember, do you remember when you lived in Arizona and I spent the summer with you? That one time you forgot to make me dinner and you sent me to bed?" Now, I'm an auntie. She had 2 meals, and I'm thinking like, "Hey, that's enough food for today." But of all the memories we made and the wonderful experiences we had, the trips, the shopping sprees, that's the one memory that her 8-year-old mind could hold dear. That's the thing about legacy. Legacy is connected to our ability to remember. Like the time in 2014 when Dell took vacation days from his job at PayPal to give coding lessons to young men in a youth correctional facility. Dell quickly realized that the students he taught had the intelligence and resourcefulness to be contributing members of the tech economy. Since then, Resilient Coders has provided sustainable career opportunities to hundreds of young adults of color and empowered them to bring change to their communities. More than 300 of our students are working in high growth careers. After completing our 20-week program, alumni possess the skills to code in some of the most in-demand technologies: HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React, Node.js, and MongoDB. By investing an extensive amount of time in general object-oriented programming principles, our students can easily jump from one language or framework to the next. Our program is intensive. Many of our students are here today putting their best foot forward, but they're tired, they're exhausted. They've been up all night fixing their presentations. I didn't know Dell in 2014, but I know from my conversations and from reading his book, wink, wink, that his passion for this work was born from frustration of seeing too few people of color in tech. He says, and this is a quote, "One of my frustrations with tech and remains the tendency to decouple underrepresentation from a legacy of intentional economic oppression that persists today." Let's think about it. Many of today's 21st century innovations came from the 1950s and 1960s. Inventions like the microchip, computer programming languages, and satellites are the foundation of services and devices we take for granted today. The internet, smartphones, artificial intelligence, virtual learning, remote work, and social media. While these innovations were taking shape, America was in the midst of its 20th century civil rights movement. Unfortunately, like many other aspects of public policy and culture, most tech innovations were developed by Black and Brown folks without consideration of how they might affect the lives of Black and Brown folks. And today, we're in the midst of another economic conundrum and the struggle for civil rights in the postmodern era. Remember the time when George Floyd was murdered by police in Missouri and corporations across the nation made commitments to equal the playing field? Thousands of DEI professionals were hired to support the need for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Suddenly, Juneteenth was a national holiday, and you could even find Juneteenth ice cream in Walmart. Sarcasm intended. The National Organization of Realtors committed to renaming the rooms in homes. It will no longer be called the master bedroom. We're going to call it the main bedroom. We want justice. A bunch of hoopla, a bunch of foolishness. Do you remember when just 2 short years ago, corporations pledged to invest $50 billion to Black and Brown businesses? To date, a mere $1 billion have been accounted for. And guess what? Most of those were loans. Do you remember the time when companies were hiring for diversity to add value to their teams? Until experts say the need for tech jobs skyrocketed during the pandemic. But there are a lot of reasons, including inflation, higher interest rates, and the economy overall, that created a kerfuffle, I'll call it. With the threat of a recession still looming, many employers have become nervous about carrying too many expenses, they say. By eliminating positions, companies can cut costs when profits get leaner, but the profits haven't budged. Billionaires in the United States became unfathomably richer over the past couple of years to the tune of at least $637 billion in total. We're standing on the precipice, well, I should say, in the middle of a digital revolution. The rapid evolution of business technology, such as AI, everybody wants to talk about AI, and automation is driving demand for up-to-date knowledge and how to develop, implement, and maintain systems that integrate with a variety of other software and databases. And guess what? We, Black and Brown technicians, I'll say it again, we, Black and Brown technicians, software engineers, will not be left out. Since taking this role, I've been asked to sit on a few panels. I've been asked to come in rooms where discussions about diversity in tech, equity in tech. How can we make it more equitable? How can we get the numbers up? How can we get the percentages up? And I talk about resilient coders, and I talk about our students, and I boast and I brag proudly, like a proud auntie. And then when I'm finished, they come up to me and they say, "Oh, the mission is wonderful. Oh, what you're doing is just so touching. It touches me. I really admire the students. I really admire their self-efficacy. How can I help?" The answer is always simple. Hire, period. Donate, period. We don't need to sit on another panel. We don't need you to come and give us advice. We just want you to hire. It's not charity. Many of our employer partnerships began when a single employee pushed their colleagues to think differently about the recruitment processes and priorities. Let's step away from the diversity factor and embrace the intelligence factor. Our brilliant budding software engineers are the solutions to your organization. They bring varied life experiences. They are sensors. They are acutely aware of their surroundings. They know how to read the room. They thrive under pressure. And if you can teach it, they can learn it. They don't see their race as an impediment. In fact, they know that they're magical. They understand, as activist and author Chad Sonder writes, our power does not lie solely in the fact that we overcome trauma. Our power lies in the fact that we create in the midst of trauma. As I bring my thoughts to a close, I invite you to think about your legacy. What do you want to leave in the earth? Whose life can you impact today? When can you speak up on behalf of someone who was underrepresented? And to our students, I ask you this. If you hear no, will you continue? You promised to be resilient. Amid all of the injustice and oppression, we all have to remain resilient. You have to, I have to, we. The moment we cease to believe that we have the tangible skills to transcend our painful circumstances, we become hopeless. And we cannot become hopeless. We cannot quit. We must persist. We have to allow ourselves to be convinced that we belong by pressing and moving forward. If there's a door, we will go through it. If the window's open, we'll squeeze right on in. And not only that, we won't forget about the people beside us and behind us. We will continue to press against the brutal and ubiquitous force of racism to foment a lasting legacy of social justice, freedom, and transform the economic landscape for our nieces, our nephews, our children, and an entire generation. Let's go to work.